Random Albinism chat with Christina and Dr. J. Aging with white hair.
I think that I'm old, but I'm not that old. So, yeah.
Yeah, well, exactly. I suppose, yeah, there's something in there, isn't there? If your hair's always had no pigment in it, who's going to be able to tell when it would otherwise be going grey? It's pretty obvious with me
Well,
because I'm dark, but
yeah. Well, I won't go grey. I'll just stay the same, right?
exactly, young forever. That's the way to look at it, I reckon.
Yeah.
It's a superpower.
I've been reading quite a few, like, on these albinism Facebook groups. There's quite a few people that say when they get into their like 60s and 70s, people don't notice them anymore because they don't look any different to anybody else. And I was like, oh yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought
Yeah.
about that. I'll get to a point and I'll just be anonymous.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's odd, isn't it? I mean, that feeds to a really deep thing, doesn't it, about albinism, oculocutaneous, so the type that you have, being a massively different experience in Scandinavia than it is in Nigeria, right? And you hear about this all the time, the book I'm reading. And I don't think I'd ever really thought about that massively and how different the experience of albinism depending on your cultural background. Because for some, they do anything to correct the skin tone. And some don't give a monkeys about skin tone, just want the eyes to stop wobbling. Some just want vision better. Do you know what I mean? It's really interesting. The more we write about treating albinism, the more questions come out about, well, what bit do people want treated? And actually, not everyone with albinism has the same answer. A bit like anything.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I suppose. But yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? I suppose in a predominantly Caucasian population, if you're getting older and you look like someone with grey hair, then you become less. You stand out less. Maybe that's interesting.
I don't think I like that though. Like, I'm so used to people staring at me all the time that I think when they don't, I'll be offended.
So again, that's really interesting as well, isn't it? So what's initially a problem becomes part of your identity, maybe, and that's hard to deal with. Is that? Yeah, wow. Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? I think we need some psychologists to tell us about that. But
yeah,
that's
got deep there.
Yeah, no, I like that. That's very interesting. That's a good topic for discussion at the fellowship, I reckon, because it's easy for us. The other thing is, I say, us sciencey, medicy types always assume that everybody with anything would rather be rid of every single part of it. But I've definitely noticed that in albinism, that when parents have young kids, they're desperate to get, if you could just flick a switch and it not be there, they're desperate for it. But then as people get older, they start to say, well, no, this is who I am. This is my identity now. I actually wouldn't flick a switch even if I had one. Which again really feeds into the treatment stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's a really weird one. It's like so many people have said to me, like when I tell them, like what people, things people say and do to me and stuff like that, and they're like, why don't you just dye your hair? Because if you dye your hair, then nobody will notice you. And people don't understand that I'm all right with who I am. It's just other people aren't all right with who I am. And if I dye my hair and like wear fake tan, then whilst albinism, like I don't walk around thinking I've got albinism. It's not something I ever think about particularly, but it's definitely part of my identity. And if I started to dye my hair, I don't think I would know who I was. I know that's really deep, but if I were to look in the mirror, I wouldn't recognize myself because it wouldn't be me. And the way I interact with the world, I'm so used to people being strange towards me that I think I'd also find it really weird when they weren't also. Like, I know that's a bonkers thing to say, but
I don't think it is bonkers. And I've definitely heard that a fair bit before, actually. And again, I mentioned there's a few books written on the experience of albinism, and I remember one that had a chapter on tribe. It was called the chapter because of a feeling of kind of, this is my tribe, this is who I am, this is my people. I wouldn't turn this off now, even if I could. I think it's fascinating. It's a really fascinating area, isn't it? If you take that sort of discussion one step further, there's also this idea of if you're two people with albinism and you have a child with albinism, and you have another child, some people might even choose, if they could, for that second child to also have albinism. And that's actually been sort of, people have mooted that before. I'm not sure if it's ever been done, but I know in the US you can actually select for, if you do IVF selection, you can actually select for certain conditions. So again, that's a really interesting field, isn't it? It's a kind of ethical minefield, but I think it speaks to a lot to the kind of identity change during life. Yeah, it's fascinating.
It is. The podcast that I recorded with two parents talked they said that their first child had albinism, and when they had their second, they were offered IVF and they refused IVF because they were like, well, what message are we putting forward to our daughter if we're trying to select a child that isn't like her? But also because you're screening for albinism, but there's millions of other things that could occur as well that are horrific. But then when their child was born, they felt really, really bad for their daughter with albinism because that one didn't have it.
Yes, it's really interesting.
They felt that child would feel like it was on its own, all over again. Their daughter would feel like it was on its own again. And I just thought that was really interesting.
It is, isn't it? And I think it's probably something which is under talked about, to be honest. Genetic counselling services are quite good at talking about this stuff, but I suspect it gets brushed under the carpet a little bit. But no, it's an absolutely fascinating concept, isn't it? I think. I think it's a great topic for discussion. But I would say personally, I think people having strong opinions one way or the other is a bad route to go down, because almost every situation is bespoke, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think the problems people face with these things is people criticising what they chose to do or what they think about it. But yeah, fascinating topic, really fascinating.